The year is 2021 and New Masters Academy is still the absolute #1 art school on the planet. That's right, on the planet. Click the link down below for a free 7-day trial. Thank you, New Masters Academy. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Honey and Absinthe After Hours podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Vincent, a background designer for the Hollywood animation industry.
And I'm Janet, the ex-Disney artist turned independent creator, and this is a podcast about all things art, business, and whatever we feel like.
Now today we're going to talk about why people in Hollywood are so sad.
Very unhappy.
Very, very unhappy.
But before we get into it, make sure to jingle, touch, flick all our bells and buttons. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Okay, what compelled us to talk about this side of the industry you never see because they don't want you to see it?
Well, I finished the Kiyosaki book, the Robert Kiyosaki book called, I think, The 4 Quadrants, and it's really helped how I frame my mind now. I have the words now to describe what it was like when I was at Disney, and I understand why I was so unhappy. And then I was talking to you about, using this book, I figured out why I was unhappy and why I think a lot of people in animation are very unhappy.
We used to go off of the Myers-Briggs test to be able to file people, just to be able to understand where people come from a little bit better. But this simplifies everything, doesn't it?
It is, in my opinion, more effective than the Myers-Briggs thing because, I considered the Myers-Briggs thing just a really helpful way to think about different people and their personality types. And the reason why you would want to know that kind of information, it helps you navigate the world a little bit better. It helps you in all relationships in life.
It could help you at school. It could help you in the workplace, even family and friends sometimes.
Yeah, if you just understand other people.
And you're really genuinely trying to understand that person a little bit better.
Yeah.
By fitting, criteria like the Myers-Briggs or the Quadrant thing that Kiyosaki talks about. So what is this thing?
So it's this thing he got from his rich dad, which is technically his best friend's dad. He was groomed as a kid to kind of become a business owner one day because he and his best friend as little kids went to his rich dad and was like, teach us how to make money.
Money.
And since his rich dad was like a millionaire, I think, eventually, one of the richest people in Hawaii, he groomed his best friend and him to understand these things. And it was him that taught Kiyosaki this quadrant thing that he put into this book.
So each quadrant has a letter. There's E, S, I, and B. What does each letter mean and represent? So
E is the employee. S, which comes next, is the self-employed person. The B is the business owner, and the I is investors. At first glance, it just seems like designations of job title. Oh, I'm an employee. Oh, you own your own business. Oh, you are self-employed or whatever. But he goes deeper into it. He actually says these are personality types. These aren't just job classifications. Each one has its own personality, and you can be multiple or you can travel. Most people start as an employee. I mean, most people don't start as self-employed or
an
investor, business owner. Most people start as an employee. So the reason why I think it's more effective than Myers-Briggs is there 12 Myers-Briggs personality types. That's a lot. That's a lot to wrap your head around. I think 4, it's so much easier. These 4 categories. The quadrants also tell you what each type of person wants. And that's really important to be able to kind of understand them. Like, you can't understand a person until you know, like, what is, like, the thing you crave most in the world. That tells you a lot about the person. So learning the personality types of the 4 quadrants had really, I was immediately able to categorize everyone. And then I had this epiphany that, like, oh, this is the reason why people in animation are unhappy. This is the reason why so many artists are unhappy. And I want to, like, to better, I guess, describe it, I guess I have to explain what the personality type of each quadrant is.
So let's start with E. And the way I like to think about this is it's like Pokemon forms. E is the very first generation, I guess, and then you evolve, I'd say, into an S, and then a B, and then an I. But, like, that's not, 100% the same for everyone.
Yeah.
But it seems as though that is the usual path. But an E is the role of the employee.
Yes, and the thing that personality types, want the most is stability. It's not money, it's not freedom, it's not happiness, it's not ownership, it's not anything. All they truly want is stability. So when you understand that, you kind of understand, like, those people in your life. The example that Kiyosaki gives is you kind of know the person they are depending on how they answer certain job interview questions, let's say. So, like, let's say the E goes into an interview and the interviewer for the job asks him or her, what do you look for in a job? They'll usually go, well, I want, like, a good stable job. Like, they don't want any kind of freedom. They don't say, like, oh, I want to get paid a lot or whatever. It's actually not money. You'd think it's money, because I thought it was money. I thought everyone's motivation is money or power or whatever. But for these people specifically, they're all about stability, which means they're really unhappy in an unstable situation. So, for example, if they are in danger of getting let go at a job or something like that, they are really resentful of, like, let's say the boss or something for threatening their stability. They really don't like that situation, and they'll do anything to not be put in that situation. So then we get to the S's, the self-employed. And the personality type of someone who's self-employed, what they want the most in the whole world is freedom. They want to have the ability to do what they want to do. And because they are perfectionists, they think that they do their job the best, which is why they usually want to be paid well. They want the freedom and they want to get paid well.
They want to get paid well because they put a lot into it.
Yeah, exactly.
They care about the thing a
Yeah,
lot.
because if you give them the freedom, they're gonna, like, go all the way for you. But that means they also expect to be paid well for all their efforts.
To make it worthwhile.
And I thought that was really interesting. I was like, wow, I relate to that one the most so far. And it was interesting because Kiyosaki said their artists typically are S's. They really want freedom and they want the ability to, like, do what they want when they want. And they tend to be perfectionists. Like, we have to slave over something for hours and hours and hours. In order for it to get good, you kind of have to be a little bit of a perfectionist. Like, it bothers you that things aren't perfect. Or you just want to do, you're prideful. You want to do a good job at this thing that you perfected your abilities to do. And so when he said, like, oh, artists typically are S's, I was like, yeah, I can see that. From all the people I've ever met in school and at work and all of that, I think a lot of artists, for some reason, just fall into that S category. So when usually, if in a job interview, the interviewer asks an S, what do you want in a job? Usually they say, I want to get paid well. I want to get paid a good salary. That usually means that they are willing to work for it too. And these people, you don't want to like interrupt, like micromanage them, because they'll just walk away. They'll be too unhappy at the lack of freedom that they'd be like, if you're gonna micromanage me, then you do it yourself. Why do you need me if you're gonna do that?
Since they put themselves into it so much, when somebody tells them or puts their finger in their soup, it's not good.
Yeah,
it's not good.
It's not good. And then there's the business owner, and the business owner doesn't like to work. They would rather other people do the work for them, which means though that they want to manage people. They like telling other people what to do, and they're good at it. Like they are good at managing other people. So I forgot the example Kiyosaki used in the book. Once I learned the personality type of a bee, that's what they're like, that's what they're like, I was like, oh, okay, this is the one I identify with the most. I think personally I'm somewhere between S and B, just naturally, just at my default. And I think it's possible that Kiyosaki says it's possible to change personalities, and I believe so too. I think it's a mindset thing is what I guess he's talking about, which I guess I can go into later. But at my default, I never really cared for stability. I love freedom, and that's all the words before that I knew how to describe it at. But at my core, I'm not actually that big of a perfectionist. I am, because I want things to be good. But at the end of the day, if they're mediocre or whatever, I'm okay if the cost of that was I didn't have to do it.
You're actually really, really lazy.
Yeah. I would rather someone else do this difficult thing. Like I have all these ideas, to all this creativity. I'd rather give them to someone else and have them do it.
Which means that you're hopefully really good at delegating. Wouldn't you think?
I think I was really heavy-handed on it when I was younger. You know, you grew up in high school and you have group projects, and like it's,
you will obey my every command.
Yes, it was kind of like that. And so a lot of people didn't like me for it, but I think I've gotten better at it with practice, with time, because it's easier to win bees with honey and not vinegar.
That's really clever.
That's a saying.
Nice one.
No, that's a saying.
Oh.
I didn't come up with it.
Oh.
Wait, did you really not know?
I know.
Okay.
Totally. So when do you finally become an I?
You become an I when you become old, usually. But an I is someone who... I completely forgot the personality traits of an I, other than the fact that they're really good at risk management.
Seems like discipline and emotional restraint is required to be an investor.
Yeah, it's that they're kind of a little bit emotionless, because they're like logical minded.
Like Spock.
Yeah.
From Star Wars.
Yeah, I guess. Like they're very logical. They don't let emotions sway them. And
I made a lot of nerds really mad.
Oh, okay.
Because I said Star Wars instead of Star Wars.
Oh, I wasn't even paying attention.
Continue.
But their main trait is that they're really good at risk management. Like they're willing to take on more risk, and because they can kind of weigh the pros and cons of it. And most of the time, a lot of things aren't that risky.
Would you say at least a really good one, a good investor, plays it cool? Like James Bond in Casino Royale or something.
And I think investor types, they like to take risk.
Gets them off a little bit.
Yeah.
But, you know, it motivates them in the way that a self-employed person likes to do good work for themselves and for whoever hired them.
Yeah. Right. And they get more, like, they see more benefits in the risk taking. And in life, usually you move through the different quadrants. Some people always stay in E. Some people become an E to an S, or just started as an S, or an S to B to an I. For the most part, everyone, once they get old, they become an I by force because they retire, and they should have something like retirement and a way to continue living past 65 without like a job,
without manually doing things, just making money while you sit.
So they're forced into learning how to become an investor, because most people have like 401ks and retirement funds, pensions, stuff and usually the only way you can passively make money is in the I quadrant, the investor. So when you're old, you're kind of forced to, which is not good. Like Kiyosaki says, it's not good to jump around. It's practical to like go from one to the next one, but not like an E to an I is a very jarring transition in personality and mindset. And
that's like using a water stone when your Squirtle isn't ready.
Yeah,
that type of thing.
So like, for example, let's say you are an E. You're someone who is used to stability. Imagine how hard it's going to be when your job suddenly becomes a B. You're a manager now. You have to change your mindset to become like a someone who's good at working with others when you never built up those skills. Or like if an E suddenly becomes an I. I's are, you have to take a lot of risk. You have to
ever make a risk
exactly
on the day-to-day.
So imagine an E having to take a major risk, and they're having a heart attack. Yeah. They're gonna be like, no, I want stability. Right. Don't do this to me. It's not good. I hate it. So it works in relationships too. So the example he gives is like the wife. She is like a major E. She loves stability. She wants a foundation to stand on in life in general. And her husband is an S who fancies himself an I. So he thinks he's this big risk taker. So as a woman who loves stability, married to a man who loves taking risk, you can imagine they got into a lot of fights. And I thought like, oh wow, that you can apply that to everything, to relationships, to life, to job interviews, to everything. So applying that to myself was what I first did. And I was like, oh, that's why I was so unhappy. That's why no matter how much time I gave, how many second chances I gave, I guess, to animation, a lot of, like, trust me, like when you spend that much time dedicated to a craft and you climb your way up all the way to magically getting hired at Disney, it's hard to like realize that you've been in the wrong path in life. But that's what I realized, and I had like the words to describe it. And when I made my like why I quit my job video at for Disney, I remember saying a lot freedom, a lot. Like I want the freedom to go do something or whatever. And when but I also wanted ownership. Like I wanted to own my own thing, and I want the freedom to do what it is that I wanted.
Doesn't sound like an E at all.
Yeah, at all.
Yeah.
I think naturally, since I'm somewhere in between like an S and a B, as an E, as a employee, I don't have freedom. I have the opposite of freedom. I micromanaged quite a lot. And I don't own anything. I don't own anything. And that gives me absolutely no joy in what I was doing if I didn't have ownership in what I was doing, or the ability to be free to go as far as I want to go, or literally the freedom to do anything. Like, when my hands are tied, I'm not in my happy place. So I realized, like, oh, if I always continued being an E, I think I would have been unhappy for like the rest of my life. Because what is that? I'm like ladder climbing, but no matter how high you climb in the ladder, you're not gonna own the company for the most part. You're not self-employed.
You're rising in the ranks of the E's. Mm-hmm. That's all you're really doing.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, that's why I was unhappy. And then when I was telling you this, I guess we both had the epiphany that I was like, oh, let's apply this to all the people in animation, like every single job title, and the kind of person that assumes that job title, what they actually are, but what they are, or what they think they are.
Yeah, I think the problem is if you don't know this kind of stuff, or if you're not mindful of yourself, you can fancy yourself a certain way, mm-hmm. but you're actually one way because you're really dishonest with yourself.
Yeah.
But if you try, like us, to be as honest with ourselves to the point where it's painful, mm-hmm. you'll finally really understand yourself.
Yeah. You'll understand, like, what you need to fight against, too, if you want to change.
Your weaknesses.
Yeah.
That type of thing.
Yeah. Because what Kiyosaki, I guess, it's very, emotionally intelligent of him to point out that, like, in that chapter of explaining all these types, he needs to, like, be gentle, because there's no good or like, these designations aren't good or bad. They just are. Like, they're not, like he was saying, every village needs all four. Like, not everyone can be one category, and it doesn't necessarily mean you're in the wrong one, or that you should change, or that, like, there's like the winners and the losers, I guess.
I think the way I look at it is where you really want to be in life.
Yeah.
You know, like, to brutally, honestly ask yourself where you're at, and if that's where you actually really want to be, then great. Mm-hmm. But if not, well, then you know what to work towards. It's not really one's better than the other.
Mm-hmm. Not at all.
Yeah. And everyone starts somewhere. So let's get into categorizing all the people in animation.
Okay. So let's go from, like, the bottom of the rung and just up and up and up.
Who is at the bottom?
I guess the production assistant, the PAs. They're basically the people that typically get coffee, do secretarial work. They're basically kind of like secretaries.
So I think I'm a little dyslexic, and I think the PAs, at least I've been on shows where the PAs do the naming conventions and all that stuff. So in the animation industry, what they don't teach you in art school is that there is a lot of actual kind of file naming stuff that you got to do, and it's basically data entry. You have to make sure every file is named correctly, and usually in animation, every file for, like, let's say a background has, like, what scene it's for, which artist or painter or designer painted it or whatever, and for what episode it is. And eventually you do this enough, especially when I do this, I do it really slowly because I'm really bad at typing.
Yeah.
And
if anyone wants to improve their life and make more money, you should listen to Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. And if you don't have an Audible subscription, head over to audibletrial.com/the Honey and Absinthe podcast, where you can get your free trial of Audible. You will get 1 free audiobook or 2 free Audible original audiobooks, so 3 audiobooks in total, and that's audibletrial.com/the Honey and Absinthe podcast.
This show that I'm on, the PAs write the templates and naming conventions for us, so thank you so much. It is just not the optimum use of my time.
Yes.
Personally, I know I'm explaining this to all of you in the podcast, and it's not, like, the most opportune way. But, like, as an employee who really tries their best when they draw, but when they look at letters, they taunt and laugh on my at my face. I can't write well.
Yeah, I think you genuinely have dyslexia.
You think so?
Yeah, because
I used to mix up my B's and D's all the time.
Yeah,
my parents would beat the shit out of me for it.
You like switch words.
They were like, I will not have a child who is like this. I refuse.
Yeah.
No, stop! Stop!
What was I saying? Oh, it was dyslexia.
Don't hurt me. I can't take this every day. Not every day.
Yeah, I think you really do have dyslexia, because I've seen you don't spell words wrong, but you like flip words around and you like flip numbers around. So you'll usually get like the right set of numbers every single time, but it's never in the right order. And then sometimes when I correct you, you do the same mistake like twice or three times.
And I swear the second time I really did it right.
Yeah.
When I get nervous. When I'm completely comfortable, I'm fine.
So you have.
But when I'm nervous, it really feels like the letters are jumping around.
Yeah.
And I'm very critical of myself, you know. So when I speak, or when I especially read out loud, it always tortured me that like I'd have to keep everything in check. I have to be like super zen, like playing Sekiro zen when I read, because I don't want the letters to jump around.
You know, I've actually noticed there are a lot of people who are dyslexic in animation.
Yeah,
artists.
You had a really good friend who, like, unfortunately in your position at Disney, it was more data entry than drawing.
I felt bad for her, because I think she probably has
what you have. And if I did what you did, I told you all the time, if I did what you did every day at Disney, I would have quit, because it's just like, this is not the optimum use of my time. Yeah. Like you were using me for my weakness. I draw. If I had a career in type, I would have never chosen a career in typing. Why are you making me type? It doesn't make any sense. So all this to say, even though PAs are in the bottom, you'd say, God bless the goddamn PAs. They do a good.
There's a purpose for every job, and I think they are ease.
Oh, also, I want to say one real quick. A lot of people, I think, have what I have, but are too ashamed to really admit it to people who they're uncomfortable with.
It's okay.
Don't you think?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So don't feel bad. I have it too. I pretend I don't have it all the time, but I have it. It's really bad. It's really like for the first show I was on, and like the big studio show, there was a lot of that, and it was really strict. I was just so bad at it.
No worry.
There was one PA who hounded me like you spelt this wrong, or you jumbled up this one. I'm just like,
oh my god,
I'm sorry. I don't. I mean, like, yeah, I graduated to draw. I didn't graduate to write words. I'm sorry.
It's okay. You guys aren't stupid. You just can't read words right. What was I saying? Oh, yeah. So PAs are E's. Like, that's the job title. You are an employee if you are a PA.
Yeah. So, for example, if you lived in the East Coast or Middle America and you really wanted to work in Hollywood, you'd move here and you bump elbows into somebody, and then you have your very, 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 very first position in Hollywood as a PA. Yeah. And that's typically why at that point you're an E. You're like, oh, I'm just so happy to be here. I'm really excited to just be a part of this. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And which is why I think, in my opinion, every PA I've ever met seems very happy in their job. Maybe not necessarily in that job title, like they might want to climb up in the ladder or whatever, but they're happy as an employee. Like they don't have yearning for like freedom or like ownership or whatever. But there are some PAs that I think or are actually S's, because a lot of PAs PAs, I mean, because it's like lowest of the totem pole job, a lot of them, oddly enough, even though it's not really in the job ladder, they want to be artists. Or a lot of them do want to climb up in that job ladder, and they want to be producers one day. And I feel like both types, the ones that like want either, like they get into animation because they're like, I'm gonna be a PA, I'm gonna somehow maneuver my way like across the ladder, not up the ladder, to become an artist or something.
Moving laterally,
yeah,
they call it.
Yeah, it's not typically what happens.
Yeah, I think most PAs, after they become a PA, they become either prop designer or color stylist, which is I guess entry position for animation, especially in TV. You'd say
like artists.
Yeah,
entry level like art design job, and those are the PAs that I think are unhappy. They're the ones that like, they don't really want to be PAs. They want to be something with more freedom. So they want more freedom. And then the next up are artists. And I believe artists are actually S's who are in the job of an E. They're in the role of an E. I think at the end of the day, most artists, they want freedom to create. They just want to be creative at the end of the day. Yes, you can get seduced by the fame or like money, and when you've not been able to get a job, or it's hard to get like such a competitive job, let's say in animation,
finally you have it.
Finally you have it, and you've been starved of stability, so you think you want a little bit of stability. But I think that's why so many people in animation are unhappy, because they're actually S's. Like they want more freedom. If they weren't seduced by the money and all the stuff. How every artist in animation is S by what their side hustle is, and that's exactly what they want to do. Yeah.
Given the choice, gun to their head, I'm sure. I mean, I would choose the thing I do on the side over, just because it's my own thing, and it's my thing, it's my baby, that type of thing.
And I think where people who are like that, like most artists, the trap that they fall into the thing is though, especially in animation, because our jobs are so specialized, we don't realize we're E's. We think we're S's. We think we have this freedom to create and be creative and all the things you think you're getting into when you take on this job.
The industry does a good job of creating the facade that you are an artiste, and that you
have freedom.
Yeah.
But so like a lot of artists in Hollywood don't realize they think they're an S. They think they're exactly where they need to be, yet they're unhappy. It doesn't make any sense, because you're actually an E. To be honest with you, you're actually an E. But because they think they're an S, they go like, oh, I want freedom. If I'm not happy now, that just means I need to climb higher in this ladder. It means that like once I become a director, an art director, or showrunner, whatever, that I'm finally gonna get the freedom to truly be happy as an S. And that's the saddest part, because I think I had thought that at a certain point, and then eventually I moved past that point, and I kind of realized that I don't belong here. But before then, that's where you're at. You think you're an S in an E's job life, who thinks that if you just get more E jobs that you can be happy, but you're not. The higher up in the ladder you go, I think you believe that you are the next rung in the ladder. So I think directors they think they're somewhere between an S and a B. Because as a director, but what you actually are, you're an E. Still. You don't own anything. You don't really have freedom, and but you do in a way have stability when you're hired in a job. But the reason why I say like they're like S's who think they're B's sometimes. They are artists as well, so they're perfectionists, and they like having the freedom. So they climbed up that ladder and they got a little bit of freedom, but then not like full freedom. If you know people who directed in Hollywood or whatever, a lot of the times you don't have full freedom, not even close.
Not having full freedom means that at the end of the day you have somebody to answer to.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, what you make has to please somebody that isn't just yourself.
Mm-hmm. So a lot of directors can trick themselves into thinking they're B's, in that like
because they get to manage people.
Yeah.
You know, that's different.
And in order to manage people, you have to feel like you have a little bit more ownership. Like when you're a director, you're the director. Like that's your movie, that's your show, episode, your show, whatever. So it feels like you have ownership, but you don't. You don't really. It just feels that way, and it feels like you manage people like a business owner, but without the ownership part, you're not. You're an E who's just in charge of other E's. And again, like the longer you trick yourself into thinking that you're like something else and not an E, just simply like you're in the job of someone who is perfect for someone who loves stability, it means that you're not happy. It means that you don't end up being happy. Because let's say like you're a director, you think you have ownership and you want ownership, let's say, but your project or this thing that you should have control over, you're just stepped all over by your boss.
So
basically.
They'd be better off quitting, buying a nice camera, getting their friends together and making an indie movie, basically. At least then they'd, give more shits.
Yeah. I really like a lot of directors, again, they have like side projects, and it really seems like a lot of them, especially the directors, they want ownership because they think they're a B, but they're not. Which is why a lot of them have like comics and make toys or
here's my thing. This wouldn't have existed without me.
A lot of people decide to go out and do the thing once they do become directors, oddly enough, because then they're like, oh, this taste of ownership, I want that. I'm going to go set out on my own thing and try my hand at it. So that's interesting.
On top of director is showrunner?
Mm-hmm.
Yes?
Yeah. And again, I think there are S's that think they're B's. Because, like, from what I've seen...
S's that think they're B's but are E's.
Yes. Again, just like directors. And just because you have the showrunner title, like, sometimes I feel like the more fake power they give to E's, the more I feel like it just keeps them happy.
And what is fake power? Fake power is you get discounts at Burbank. Fake power is you get to see movies right before they come out, before the general public gets to see them, and you get to say, I saw it at the studio before it even came out. That type of stuff. Or you get to be at rap parties. Ooh.
Power over other people too. Just like, oh, I'm your boss, I tell you what to do. Like, you can't really say no to me because I have final say at the end of the day. So like the more final say I guess you have, the more you feel like you have ownership. But at the end of the day, unless you get things like royalties or it like legally the show or whatever still belongs to you and not Disney or whatever, unless it's that, you're just an E. The Disney hires you to do a job and you do the job as best you can. You don't own anything. Yes, you manage people, but you're just an E managing other E's. It's not like you manage and own, even as a showrunner. And I feel like they give them this this weird assumption that like the more ownership you have, you are actually a B, like trying to trick you. Because I feel like it not only keeps you happy, it also turns you into a little bit of a scapegoat when the time is right.
Give an example.
So like directors, for example, and showrunners, if they're more on like front facing, they are first to get blamed when a show isn't received well. They're the first to get fired, whatever. And like, it could have been the producer or executive's fault. It could have been like upper echelon elites in the company that you've never even heard of in your entire life because you don't work in the company or whatever. It might be them, the shadowy figures in the background that you never see. But they give this E the illusion that you're a B. Everyone thinks they're a B. Like most people think directors have final say of their movies and their TV shows, which is so far from the truth for the most part. And everyone thinks they're a B, including themselves, but the person who knows that they're truly not a B are the Bs of that company. The Bs understand, they're just the
Bs understand that everybody who's not in the circle of Bs is an E. Yeah. No matter what. Yeah. No matter if whatever place in the ladder you are, you will always be an E because you do not own a single thing. Once you are gone, somebody else will take your place. And that's all. That's it.
And yeah. And then there are the freelancers, which they are S's who are S's.
Legit S's.
Yeah.
Freelancers are legit S's.
And what I've noticed, out of everyone in Hollywood, the S's are the happiest I've ever seen.
They feel usually the most in control.
Yeah.
Of their lives.
They're like, I'm exactly where I need to be.
They have to take care of their own taxes and, set aside money because self-employment and all that stuff. But once you get past that, you're in control of your own hours. You're in control of your output when you're going to take breaks, whatever it is. You're your own boss.
Yeah. I think the ones that I've met working in the industry, they tend to just be like really happy, really secure because they have the freedom that they want. They get paid more than like if you were hired on the show. They can come and go, and for the most part, the interesting relationship between S's and B's are that they work really well together because B's want to tell you what to do. They don't want to do it. They can rely on the S to be a perfectionist and do exactly what they asked of. That's why they hired them. And without the commitment of an E, of hiring an employee or whatever, which usually happens. A lot of times, a lot of shows will like avoid hiring an actual employee and just hire like a lot of freelancers. But occasionally though, if you are forced to be an S but you're actually an E, you won't be happy.
Right.
Someone who wants stability but forced to, because they can't find stable work, forced to be a freelancer, they want so desperately to be hired. Like that's because you're forced to. Like you're like not in the right mindset. If you changed your mindset and you were like, well, this is reality. How do I like take advantage of the fact that I'm an S? Maybe you learn to enjoy the freedom a little bit more, the freedom to be creative or whatever. But anyone who's forced to be a certain category that they don't really want to be is just not good. And that's what I see a lot. People being forced to be in category they don't even know that like the reason why they're unhappy.
Do you have any anecdotes?
Oh, so many.
Yeah, what are they?
There's so many people who fancy themselves S's or B's, and it comes out in ego. So you see a lot of like the cutthroat competitiveness in animation, which exists in any kind of competitive, I guess, workplace, like super competitive workplace, it's just annoying. It's annoying to be commanded by someone who thinks themselves a B. Because then it's like, dude, you're like me. Oh, there was one where like I was at this rap party and even before I learned any of this, I tend to treat everyone kind of the same. If you're a child, I treat you like an adult. If you are much older than me, I'll treat you with respect, but I'm not gonna like either bow down or disrespect you. You're just like me.
Neutral.
Yeah, neutral. Like, I'm gonna treat you like an equal. But the problem is, I look like a little girl, and I sound like a little girl, so people don't have that same respect for me back, usually. And they're very perturbed by the fact that I treat them like myself. So, when I was at this rap party, I was just like happy to be there, very like confident in myself. And I get in the elevator to this fancy restaurant thing, and this guy comes in, and everyone's wearing their badges. You can't be here without it. And I was just like, hey, how's it going? Like, oh, you're going to the party? Cool. Like, really like buddy with him, because we're just gonna go party. And we're all happy here. And he's being very polite back. Very like, oh yeah, like very like normal. Just normal. And then throughout the course of the party, he realizes I'm just a revisionist. And he was like executive producer, blah blah blah. Like way up on the food chain compared to me. And immediately when he realized that, he shot me dirty looks. Because every time I would try to like just talk to him as if he were my equal, just like you and me, like, oh, we're just chatting, whatever, there's no like weird thing here. But,
know your place, Janet.
yeah, that's what it
You
felt
are
like.
just a commoner. I am an executive producer. You are but a little ant.
It was very like, how dare you
You have
talk
your
to me?
germs on my sleeve. I am an executive producer. You bow down before my feet, slave.
Yeah, I was like, there was literally like no difference in any extra information that he got, other than the fact, like the minute he knew I was just a revisionist, he didn't want to talk to me. He wanted nothing to do with me. And I was like,
You dare speak to me, a Hollywood executive producer? How dare you get your filthy commoner germs on my body?
yeah, I was kind of like,
My pure executive Hollywood body.
I was like, we're like the same. Like, chill. You're human. I'm human.
I am more than human. I am an executive
we're not the same.
producer. We're not the same. You are scum compared to me.
Yeah. Or just like people, especially the ones who are being groomed to ascend the ladder, let's say, they're kind of the worst sometimes, because they're trying to assume art director level, whatever, so they feel like they need to be commanding in a certain way.
You dare speak to me.
But it's a little bit like sometimes disrespectful, in my opinion, the way they like command other people because they're hot shit now. That's what it feels like sometimes. And
See this all the time.
yeah. Or there's just so many ego things that I'm actually not all that upset about. It's mostly just like, can we not right now? Can we just be? We're on the same team here. We're all trying.
People want to feel important. Don't you think?
Yeah, at the expense of like other people on their team.
I guess it's Hollywood.
We're all just trying to make cartoons here. We're just trying to like get to work, do our jobs, and go home. And some people just let their egos.
But I am an executive producer. You are nothing but an ant.
That's my face. Like every time I get that exactly, just like, oh, okay. Cool. Good for you.
You think I'm going to grace you with my eye contact?
Cool. Oh, okay.
Man, there was like a comment from somebody we knew who was like, yeah, like this exec doesn't even look at me.
Yeah.
Doesn't even look me in the eye.
I could tell a little bit about that show. Because,
yeah, I think there are a lot of people in Hollywood in power who just don't see human beings as human beings. Yeah, they go on Twitter and go, I love you, AOC.
Yeah.
AOC, you can do no wrong. I love you so much. I am such a great person. I am a Hollywood producer.
Yes.
At Disney. Ha 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 blah blah blah.
But so the next one up from showrunner, and past freelancer who's like self-employed, which is like separate. But like the next one up is, I guess, executive producer types. That job title. And I think they are, halfway between an S and a B. When you see in the credits of a movie, let's say like Mission Impossible, Tom Cruise is executive producer along with like 2 other people. It's because they invested in the project, which means whatever amount of money that like the movie makes, they get like a huge, like they don't sometimes actors will get paid less just to be an executive producer because they will make more money on distribution and like like how much the movie ends up selling. So that's basically that. Anyone who has like actual ownership of the thing. And sometimes executive producers don't, which is odd to me. But as you climb this executive ladder, like Bob Iger for like CEOs, you know, like the super upper echelon executives that you probably don't even talk to,
like
ever.
The Zucks.
Well, yeah.
Or the what's his name from Twitter? The Dorseys.
But I do think executive producers finally, maybe if you've climbed that ladder hard enough, rarely, you become like executive producer where you do kind of like get royalties up the butt and like whatever. Then that's when you're finally kind of a B. And that's kind of why that they're a little rude sometimes and they're a little egotistical, I guess. But the reason why I say that they're kind of still S's because a lot of them at the end of the day are still in the role of an employee on like a day-to-day basis, just one that works really hard. So I guess I would categorize as S. And they think they have freedom, but at the end of the day, you still kind of just work for the man. A little bit less for the man because you're kind of also the man at the same time, but you're not quite the man. You're not Zucks. You're not CEO. You're not owner of whatever. You have part ownership, I guess.
It's been almost a year. Do you miss it? Do you miss being an oldie?
No, absolutely not. I am so happy in comparison, and when I read this book I was like, that is why the trade-off obviously is that when you're an E going to an S, there's a mindset shift that absolutely has to happen, because if you are used to stability and you go into the kind of job that I have, basically self-employed, you're going to drive yourself to burnout and insanity through the stress of not having stability.
Right.
If you don't get used to it and kind of train your mind that like stability is overrated, or like even as like someone like me, I really don't care all that much for stability. I still, because you're conditioned to it all your life you're conditioned to it. I think it's really hard for some people. Like I think some people shouldn't be YouTubers because of this exact reason. If you cannot handle the instability, get a job. You're gonna like hate this. You're gonna hate this life because it's too stressful. Like you're gonna like burn yourself out too fast. But yeah, I am so much happier with all the stress of having to work for myself. I'd rather have the stress, like 100,000%.
What do you say, or have any words to say for the poor souls in their home cubicles who are thinking of doing what you're doing but are too afraid, or whatever it is, whatever doubts you had back then? What were the kind of doubts you had back then?
Back then, just fear of being unstable, I guess. The thing is, I think when you're working in animation, you should have gotten over it a little bit at first, in your first maybe 2 years.
Because animation isn't stable.
No, yeah. You're like constantly finding a new job.
You don't, even in animation, being an E doesn't really mean much.
Yeah. You're like an E, but kind of an S, but still an E. It just sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you don't know, it's because sometimes you could be on a show for 6 months, maybe shorter than that, depending on when you got hired.
Yeah. So, I mean, even E's aren't perfectly happy in animation, even though it seems like, oh, the job's an E. Shouldn't E's all be happy in animation? No, because Hollywood jobs in general are not the most stable comparatively. So you're an E only for 6 months, maybe 9 months.
Cross your fingers.
Yeah, you get lucky. You get in feature. You get in.
But it's only as long as you've made the movie.
Yeah.
And then cross your fingers again. Hopefully you get into the next project.
Yeah. So it's not even that stable.
So for people who are just sick and tired of that life, what do you say?
Oh, that what Kiyosaki says, that like while you're in the job that you're in your free time, make moves to learn and grow into the other types. So if in life you are in an E job, you're an employee, and you desperately want freedom, you're willing to work really hard, you don't necessarily want to manage people because you want to do it. Like, you want to do the thing. Like, you don't want other people to do the thing. You want the like pride and joy of doing the thing. He recommends like you work on making income doing that.
That's kind of what you did.
While you're working, yeah. A lot of people just, for some reason, assumed that I quit with no kind of like backup. Like, oh, good luck with your business that you're starting. I never said I'm starting the business. I never said that. I started a long time ago. Yeah, make moves. And then for me, as someone who's like part S, part B, like one of the nice things about like YouTube is your income will grow to a point where you can start hiring and start like managing and all that stuff. So like, I'm not necessarily 100% happy I still consider myself an S at this point, because I haven't developed like I have developed the system. I don't have the people running the system. And I'd like to hire people when I get the chance to, like when I get the financial ability to hire more people to run the business for me, and so that I can just relax. Yeah. So I am making moves to become a B, a full-on B, not just an half S, half B. So, yeah, I think it's all a journey. It's all like I'll get there. I will.
One day. What is our recommendation for today? It's Beautiful Monday. Oh, we forgot to say, you're going to have a fantastic week, guys. It's going to be great.
First week of February, second week of February.
The month of love.
You're gonna have all the great things. You're gonna be so lucky this week.
Oh yeah.
Because you listen to this podcast. But yes, our recommendation for this week is Terrence Malik's Days in Heaven.
Why?
Because I think it's beautiful.
Okay.
So I personally, I'm not a huge fan of Terrence Malick. I know all the film snobs are gonna hate me.
I don't like these types of film snobs, though. They're the ones who like to smell their farts. Because it smells so
Yeah.
good. Ooh. Oh,
Yeah.
oh, yeah. Terrence Malick.
Yeah.
Swirling visuals.
Terrence Malick is a little pretentious to me. A little pretentious. No visuals, no substance. Yeah. Yeah. But I have to hand it to him. Beautiful visuals. I don't know if that's him or the cinematographers. I really like the cinematographers for his movies. But I would recommend everyone watch it because it's absolutely beautiful. The colors are beautiful. The compositions are beautiful. Very, very, very basic story. In my opinion, a little boring. But still, if you want to call yourself an artiste, I think you should watch Terrence Malick.
At least watch one of these movies.
At least one, yeah.
Yeah, I saw Badlands in college. I hated it. It was very beautiful, though. Very beautiful movie.
I feel like that's what everyone says about his. It's beautiful. I mean, you gotta give him that credit for that. They're absolutely gorgeous. All right. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Honey and Absinthe podcast. Make sure to like if you liked the episode. Please and thank you. Head over to honeyandabsinthe.com to help support this channel by buying some merch. I'm currently wearing the Hustle shirt today. And check out these other episodes over here for bingeable episodes.
Bingeable. It's been a year.
The whole
Watch
year.
out! The entire 2020 worth of content.
Yes. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.